Hey there, friendlies. How's up? Welcome to the 4th of August episode of the Beer Blades and Bushcraft live stream. As usual, we got blades and blades and blades and blades. And what we got here is some beer. We're going to talk. So on this mouse, this gaming mouse, there's a button right there. Whoop, right on the side there. And when I touch it, it does random stuff to my browser. It's a pretty good mouse. I like it fine, but too many buttons. So that's why I disappeared. Sorry about that, folks. That was really pro, right? Really pro. Really professional. So, what did I want to do tonight? You know, I kind of just want to talk about if any of you guys have some really cool stories from camping trips or canoe trips or whatever. I want to hear them. I just want, like, if it's funny, that's great. If it's not funny, but it's kind of weird, that's great. If it's neither of those, but it was just a really good adventure, that's fine. You know, anything's okay as long as the story is true. I got a couple of stories, but nothing that'll cover 2 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to occasionally throw up the invite. So someone can come on for a few minutes, tell a cool story or two. I know that some of you who I speak to offline, well, not offline, but not on the live streams, have some pretty cool stories. So I'm hoping to hear from you guys and share our some of our bumps and bruises from the outdoors world would be, good. Hey, Dennis. Okay, well, when you decide to not be in the background, I'd like you to come on and share some stories, because that's what it's going to be about tonight. I want to hear from you guys. I think it's going to be all about you guys tonight. Come on, tell me a story or two, and tell everyone a story or two. Step into the forefront for a little bit there. I would like to welcome. I have two new mods this week, one of whom is on right now. Tenenbaum has been made a mod. The other mods and I talked about it, and we think he'll be great. So everyone say congrats to Tenenbaum. For those of you who haven't picked up on it yet, XNBomb is Tenenbaum. All right, Jackie, see you soon. So hi to everyone who's on. Hi there, Tenenbaum. Hi, Grace Martin. Hey, Jackie, although she's just stepped away for a bit. Hi to Dennis from Canoe Hound Adventures. Always good to have you around. Hey there, Serge. Be ready today. How's it going? Nice to see you. So yeah, outdoorsy stories. Anyone with a camera, a computer, and headphones on, yeah, you can come on, tell us some stories. In the meantime, I'm going to open the beer for this week. Anyone who's got a beer, tell me in the side chat, or a whiskey or whatever, tell us all in the side chat what you got. I'm drinking something from Ontario this time. This is the Cobblestone Nitrous Stout. It's an organic beer. 440 mil. What's the percentage? 4.2%. So it's sort of in the Guinness range. Our nitrogen-charged organic Cobblestone Stout is an exercise in smooth, with a deep-roasted, smoky palate and a crisp, lingering hop note on the finish. This is a stout lover's stout. This classic pub ale is a gift from our brewers to you. Little purple prosy, but not too bad. Let's get this baby into a glass. I know I had said several weeks ago that summer, for summer, I was going to try much lighter beers and stuff, because Stout is kind of more of a winter thing. But it's pissing rain out today. It's been pissing rain for days. I have no idea how many millimeters we're at right now, but one of my mods will probably look it up. We had a small river in the unfinished part of the basement where my workshop is yesterday. So it's not sunny and hot, it's rainy and cold, so it is Stout territory as far as I'm concerned. It's funny that I was sitting in the solarium sort of listening to the rain with the windows open this evening, and I love doing that. I've sort of said that in previous live streams, but I just love sitting there and listening to the rain, smelling the rain on the greenery outside. I mean, rain isn't quite so nice on like the urban side of the house, streets, dog poo, diesel stink, but in the backyard, man, where it's all cedars and grass and plants, gardens and stuff, that the rain smells beautiful. One day I'm going to have that country house or that log cabin with a porch on it screened in, where every time it rains I can just sit out there with a hot cup of tea or something and watch and smell the rain, listen to it. So here's the Stout. There's a coffee thing happening, maybe a little bit of a chocolatey, molassesy thing happening. It's very toasty across the top. The foam on this, the head is almost structural. It's not like fizzy. There's like a thickness there. Delish. Absolutely delicious. Smells good too. I do love me some Stout. There we go. there was a hair here, and I didn't want to like while I was taking it off. Hey, Tyler's here. Serge says that in the past 4 days, we've had the same amount of rain as in the entire month of May. That sounds about right to me. It's great for my plants, let me tell you. Tyler says, "Oh yes, the rain and gloom aesthetic, a good one for sure." I think we've had this conversation, Tyler. Tyler, what I'm doing tonight is I want people to come on and just sort of share kind of their best or worst outdoors stories with the viewers. I figure, I've had a pretty good run so far with these live streams. My audiences are getting bigger. There are some really cool people discovering the live stream, and I'm discovering them through the live stream. And so tonight, I would like anyone who wants to come on and tell either their funniest, their best, their creepiest, or their worst outdoors or camping or paddling stories. I want to hear them. Of course, there's the usual rule: no politics, no guns, because of all the reasons I've said before, YouTube getting crazy on me and stuff. Tyler, I love that story. If you want to come on and tell a few stories, you've got some good ones. Outdoor Dauber's got a couple of good ones. I think Tenenbaum had a good one too at one point. Tyler, right before you came on, I welcomed Tenenbaum to the mods crew. The mod crew. I think maybe I need a name for my mod crew. Like, you guys know Tyler Wood has the Wood Squad for his like inner his inner circle of friends. Maybe I need one for the Rain Dance subs. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep dropping the link. Hey, Hike with Mike. Hike with Mike. As I've just said, I'm inviting people to click on this link, which I'm putting down again because you've just arrived. If they want to come on and tell their best or funniest or worst outdoors camping, hiking, paddling stories, I want to showcase you guys tonight instead of myself. I mean, I'll tell a few stories too, but I don't have that many. So anyone who wants to come on, you are absolutely welcome. Sorry, I just got a message popped up in the corner, and it's like, oh, squirrel. Sorry about that, guys. This is a very good beer. Who else is drinking a beer? Who else is having some alcohol on this cold, rainy night? And how's everyone doing? I know a lot of us have been, bunkered down since March, and I've spoken a bit about mental health. That's part of the reason I had my stepsister on, the Wounded Warriors ambassador a couple of weeks ago. I figured this was definitely the time to have that conversation. I'm making no bones of the fact that I'm not doing great right now. I'm not doing as bad as I was last month, but it's hard on a lot of people. So if you guys are, I hope you guys are all doing great. Camille got this on Saturday because it was her birthday. This was an epic win, a successful gift. When I was giving it to her, I said, look, you said you wanted something handmade by one of your parents. This gift is handmade. I made this for you. But I said, but you can only use it when I'm around until you're a little older. And we're going to spend the rest of the summer teaching you how to use it. So when she opened it, she was very, very impressed. I love doing stuff for my kids like that. She had no idea this was coming. No idea. There's a degree of love you put into something for your kids, or I guess whatever loved one, when they just don't know anything about it. It's a good feeling. Boom. Hey, how's it going?
Good evening.
I will do this so that we've both got some.
It's going pretty well.
Yep.
So you need some stories.
Yeah, just a couple of stories. Crank your volume just a little bit, though.
I don't know that I can actually make my mic go any louder, unfortunately.
Okay. So let her rip, Holmes.
The beard is in the way. Well, I'll start with the short one, and if we have to fill up more time, I'll go for the long one.
Okay.
The short one goes something like this. About 20 years ago, I was a canoe tripper for a children's camp.
Okay.
And I would spend my summers taking young people out in Algonquin Park, amongst other places. And on one particular occasion, we pulled up to a very, very nice campsite on Little Doe Lake, coming from Tom Thompson. And this is one of those gorgeous sites that's on a peninsula. So lots of water all around, great views, lots of wind, lots of tent sites. And the other thing is that you can approach it from several directions. So from the direction...
Oh, you mean from the water?
Yeah, it's got water on three sides, essentially. Yeah. It's a long, thin peninsula. So we pulled up from a direction, I guess, that people don't usually come from. And everything seemed to be fine. The other thing about this site is that there are those orange campsite signs facing all three different directions. And the one that we pulled up to just looked like any other campsite sign, little tent on it, everything was fine. So, there was a group of us. There was actually 6 canoes, 18 people, 12 kids, 6 sort of young adults supervising them.
All right.
Made camp. Everything's going pretty much okay, but a little around the early evening, one of the kids comes back and says, I heard something moving around back there in the forest.
Okay.
I said, well, was it a big something or a little something? He said, well, I think it was a big something. It sounded big and it was making noises. And I'd say, well, what kinds of noises? And I'd be like, well, kind of growling, snorting noises. But we're all set up and the sun's already gone down and, didn't think much of it. So tucked in for the night.
Yeah.
And the next morning, make breakfast. One of the kids comes back from taking a dump out at the Thunder Box. Says, I think I saw a bear back there. I said, oh, that's not good. maybe now would be a good time for us to get going. So, we pack up. And as we are leaving, like 5 of the 6 canoes have left. I'm the last one. I'm getting my 2 kids into the boat for us to cast off. I see this black bear come strolling into the campsite, and it's got cubs.
Oh,
Which,
okay.
in retrospect is terrifying.
Yes.
But hindsight's 2020, and you can't know this sort of thing necessarily.
Okay.
So as we're paddling around the site, we see on the other 2 campsite signs facing the directions we didn't come from, scrawled in big black permanent marker, danger, bear, mother and cubs, do not camp, in big letters. But, they wrote it on 2 of the signs, but not the third
You guys
sign.
came in the other side.
We came in the other way, and you don't necessarily paddle all around your campsite looking for some written message from somebody.
Yeah, no, you get there and you set up.
Yeah. So it was just one of those little things where, by the grace of God, nothing happened to anyone. Everything was fine. But we were, basically, that close to not good. And I, stepped into my canoe and pushed off as the mother bear walked up to the.
So the timing was perfect.
It was, I think as we were leaving, it was clear that we were leaving, so that all the human smells were gone, and it was time to see what food might be available. And,
yeah.
I could see the bear behind me as we were paddling away.
Picturesquely paddling out into the.
And I thought, it's good to be good, but it's also good to be lucky.
Yeah. I just want to say, want to catch up with some comments here. Hey Mallory, for those of you who've been here, I said that I have 2 new mods tonight. One is Tenenbaum, who's on screen right now, and also welcome Quebec Homestead, who is also a mod. I made her a mod 2 weeks ago, kind of off the cuff. And I double checked that she still wanted to be a mod this past week, and she said yes. So those are our 2 new mods. Be gracious and welcome them both. Mally, BB&B is Beer Blades and Bushcraft. This used to say, the 4th of August Beer Blades and Bushcraft live stream. But I've been really sort of trying to tighten things down to keep YouTube from getting pissed at me again. So I also want to mention that as Tenenbaum is doing, the point of tonight's live stream is if I want you guys to come on and tell me some great outdoor stories from your trips. If you're comfortable coming on, I will post the URL, the link. I'm doing it right now. I'll post it on occasion so that you guys have just you can just click on it. Black Dog, hi. How's it going? Old North Southpaw, hey. Welcome back to the live stream. Tenenbaum has another story. I think you got a longer one, you said?
Okay, this one's quite a bit longer, but as long as it's just the 2 of us, I guess we can do that.
Yeah, this will also give other people time to sort of come up with some stories to tell us.
Okay.
But yeah.
This was one of those days where everything happened. And it just went on and on. And the other thing about it, I'll say, is that you hear when you talk about, accidents or disasters that happen, it's usually a bunch of little things that sort of build up and compound on each other.
Yeah.
And that is sort of in this vein. So the way this one starts out is a similar scenario. 6 canoes, 6 adults, 12 kids. We're coming out of Lake Louisa into Rock Lake in Algonquin Park. And I think the point at which the day started getting a little out of the ordinary was around noon. We'd had a very nice lunch, hot lunch actually, salami and cheese on a site on the west end of Louisa Lake.
Salami and cheese is epic win.
Yeah, I mean, compared
no matter how you slice it.
Compared to the PB&J that follows, the salami and cheese days are the great days.
Yeah.
So we'd done that. We'd had a fire, and of course we'd had our Kool-Aid because kids are fueled by sugary water. So you put sugary water in them, and they will paddle and paddle and paddle, which is what
Yeah.
you want. So we got going, and Louisa's a good-sized lake. With the wind against you, it'll take you maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours to go from end to end.
Okay.
We're about an hour in, and someone in the party notices that the jug, which is the sacred device for which juice and water are consumed from, seems to be absent from all of our canoes.
Oops.
This happens, people forget things. We're coming up on a long portage between Louisa and Rock. It's about 3,000 meters, which we know is going to take a long time anyways.
Yeah.
So the faster paddlers amongst us draw straws as to who will go back to the site
Yeah.
and pick up the jug. I am the winner of this dubious honor. So
Winner.
I get to paddle
In air quotes.
Exactly. I get to paddle an hour back, and then the 2 hours to get to Louisa to pick up the jug. So I do that. I mean, okay, I had a pretty light canoe. I was fast. It was okay. But I'm already expending more of my energy than I normally would because I'm going to try to go twice as far in the same time as everybody else. I tell everyone else, paddle as slow as you can, please, because I'm going to, be challenged to catch up here.
Yeah.
So I do that. 2 hours, it's actually 3 hours pass of me paddling as hard as I can.
Yeah, because if it's a 2-hour trip and you're an hour in and you have to go back and then get back to that halfway point again.
Yep. So I covered a lot of ground that day.
That's a big day. Yeah.
So now it's, 3:34 and I get to the landing on the Louisa side of the Louisa Rock Portage.
Yeah.
And almost everyone's gone. But there seems to be a problem. In fact, there's two problems that are out of the ordinary.
Okay.
For the first, you need a little background, which is these young campers usually have counselors that are with them for most of the year, and one of their counselors from their group would come with them on a trip.
Okay.
The counselors in this case were two young ladies from Scotland who had never been on a canoe trip before. And
this was this a summer camp, like a sleepaway camp?
A sleepaway summer camp. And they would recruit for European counselors as well for a little diversity to make it interesting.
And epic amounts of expertise in the Canadian wilderness.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So they were very new to this. They had a lot of trouble carrying canoes, which they needed to do because you need one adult to portage the canoe. Kids typically carry the packs. They were also deadly afraid of bears. They just, because it was outside of their experience. The idea of being in a wilderness that had bears was something that was not appealing to them. So I think this combination of things, the physical difficulty of portaging, the fear of being in a strange environment, and the fear of bears, all combined to make them a little not as good as they could be, or still on edge perhaps. Now here's the thing about the Louisa Rock Portage.
Yeah.
Right near the end, right before Rock, it crosses a road. You hit the road, you turn right, you go 100 meters, and you turn left. So there's just a little jig-jag.
Yeah, a little jog.
You have to do two things. You have to turn in the right direction, and you have to get back off.
Yeah.
If you turn in the wrong direction, you walk down the road endlessly. If you turn in the right direction, but you miss the next turn, you walk down the road endlessly.
Yeah.
So I get there, and my two colleagues who are experienced are there, and they're like, "We can't find the two girls."
Oh shit!
And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, we tried to explain to them what you had to do. There were directions, but somehow they got lost." So we portaged the remaining stuff to Rock, and then we're standing there now at the Rock end, or 100 meters from the Rock end at the road, trying to figure out how we're going to find these two girls.
Yeah.
So we did what you're supposed to do in these situations. We stopped and took a cool drink of water and thought things through. So we're sitting there, we're like, well, there's the road that goes this way, the road that goes that way. The road that goes that way, a little while down there, it splits into two. The three of us, let's split up. Let's walk 5 or 10 minutes as far as we can in each direction, shouting their names. We'll either find them or we won't. We'll be back here in 20 minutes. So, we do that, walk out 10 minutes, shouting, walk back, nothing. Now, let me add another layer to this. While all this is happening,
yes,
the kids are at the other end, and someone in a motorboat from our camp pulls up, which is really weird. On Rock Lake, you can actually put a motorboat in. Turns out that they brought it with them. The bus that is supposed to take our trip back to camp is there a day early. We're supposed to be camping on Rock that night. Turns out that one of the counselors had an emergency, and the emergency was of such gravity that it was decided to cancel the trip entirely.
Wow.
Bring us all in.
Okay.
But we're like, well, we can't exactly leave yet because we're missing members of our party.
There's a couple of Scottish women.
So we'll get over to you as soon as we can, but we can't really go anywhere until we find them. So they're like, okay. They get back in the little motorboat with the outboard, putter back across the lake, go back to the road. We try to figure out what to do. We said, well, obviously, walking 10 minutes wasn't enough. We're going to go for 30 minutes. Same plan. Hopefully, we'll be back here in an hour, and we'll have some people. Okay. We do that. This time it actually works. One of my friends comes back with the two of them. The story is they missed the turn. They walked down the road. They thought they heard a bear. They dropped a canoe. They ran into the woods and they hid.
Because that's what you do when you hear a bear.
You know, it could be worse. It could be worse, I guess. But you know, we were very happy to have found them. But now it's getting later. You know, it's 5, 6 p.m. We got this other thing hanging over our heads, which is they're waiting for us to leave, which is odd. We've got the whole party together now. We're coming onto Rock Lake. And I guess there's another layer I have to add, which is so far it's been a nice sunny day with those rolling cumulus clouds marching through the sky. But right around 5 or 6, the sky starts getting dark and it starts getting green. Great. And it starts raining as hard as it rains. Like full-fledged summer thunderstorm, 20-kilometer-an-hour headwind. Okay. And we're like, well, you know, under any other circumstance, we wouldn't even go on the water. But the problem is that they're waiting for us to leave. So for the first hour or two, we don't even think about going on the water. We're just sitting. But the storm is not letting up. Right. It is just blowing. And yes, there's lightning. Pissing rain. And now it's getting dark.
Oh, God.
So we're like, well, you know, if they want us to leave today, we have to go now because we're not going in the dark.
Fair.
So we get some of the canoes out on the water. It becomes clear that there's no way that those 6 canoes are going to cross that lake under those conditions. The Stearns people, those 2 Scottish girls and one other person who was not as experienced a canoeist, just don't have the chops. It's just too dangerous to really consider asking them to go out there. So they pull off to the side. Again, we sort of draw straws, and even though I'm exhausted because I've done the extra paddling for the jug, I get nominated across the lake and ask them over there with the bus and the motorboat, well, what do you want us to do? I mean, we can't get them here now. So I do. I have to say that it's one of the toughest paddles of my life. I had one child in the boat with me, which is nice because that wasn't risking the life of 2 children, just one.
Fair.
His job, he was on his knees down low with his life jacket on, and his job, he had 2 jobs. 1, stay in the boat. 2, paddle on the left so I could paddle on the right with power and get us there.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing. I have no idea how long it took to cross the lake because, you know, it was terrible conditions and terrifying. But I got over there. I said, well, what do you want to do now? The other trippers are hanging out with the rest of them. Some of them are over there and some of them are over there. Fortunately for us, Rock Lake is a lake where there are cottagers. And cottagers have motorboats.
Yeah.
And so we obtained some assistance from local Algonquin Park dwellers in their cottages who were much maligned for having cottages in Algonquin Park, but it turns out they can come in really handy sometimes.
Yeah.
And they were very kind and helped us rescue our whole party. So by, 7 or 8 o'clock, 6 canoes, 18 people soaked to the bone are on a bus headed for home.
Oh, my God.
No major casualties, although I had a Zippo lighter in my pocket, which leaked all its fluid and burnt a big hole in my thigh, which I didn't notice.
Oh,
that's
good.
while this was happening because I was too busy trying not to drown
Right.
or flip the canoe. But other than that, that turned out pretty well. As it turned out, we got pulled off that trip because a counselor on that trip, his girlfriend had died on a beach in Israel. She was killed by a hand grenade.
Wow.
And they decided that was an event that was traumatic enough to justify an extraction. What they hadn't realized is that the minute you add a new element to these situations, like you have to move now, no matter what the weather is, it can produce unpredictable results.
Yeah, that's for sure. I've got a couple more people on. We got Tyler and we got Stitch.
I've told a long enough story that there are others.
Yeah, don't go away if you don't want. I'm sure there's more. I just want to point out what Black Dog was saying. He gave a story. We were leaving out the west arm of Opiongo and met another group who left their cooler on the ground while fishing. Black bears came in and shredded the cooler. Later, their little Scotty dog chased after a pine marten.
Big no-no.
The pine marten turned and said, "You want some of this?" He shredded the dog.
Oh.
His guts were about to hang up, wrapped it in an ace bandage. But you didn't say whether the dog actually lived, Black Dog. Did the dog make it? Because that's a pretty substantial run-in.
I mean, it sounds like probably not.
Yeah.
Damn.
You have to imagine there's some infection there, like, just be almost cruel to try and make the dog live,
Yeah. Oh, well. I guess Mallory is not going to come on. She's in bed with headphones on. Oh, it's chicken processing day. Yeah, okay. So you're probably bushed. All right. And Hike with Mike, not comfortable with live streams, never done one. Yeah, Hike with Mike, I get that. That's legit. I'm an introvert as well. I really have to work at being on camera. So I get that. I understand. Well, Mr. Tenenbaum, those are two. Well, one of those stories was a lot more harrowing than the other. But, well, actually, no, they were both pretty.
I was going to say the bear was probably more dangerous than any of that. But that just sort of went on and on.
Yeah. Yeah, that second one was the day I don't ever want to go through. But, that which does not kill you and all that, right?
Unless you lose an arm, right? Then you're considerably weaker.
True, especially if I lose the right one.
But yeah, bears will not make you stronger.
No.
Well, the doctor at the camp looked at the chemical burn I had on my thigh and was like, "What the hell is wrong with you?"
Ow! Imagine being a camp doctor, seeing a canoer come in and have him seeing you for a chemical burn.
And I was just like, I forgot it was there. It was dumb.
Just the confusion.
There were other things happening.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No kidding. Okay. Well, every time we do one of these live streams, Jess asks me to tell this story. Anyone who knows me in my hiking life, I hike in moccasins. I like it a lot better. I like to deal with terrain by having strong ankles instead of having strong built-up boots around my ankles.
Now, Tyler, I think I've asked you this before. Are your moccasins like the straight up trad ones with the like the suede or the thin sole, or do you have? Yeah, okay.
I have put these on, but these are very, very thin.
Okay.
It's not even really a sole. It's more of just to keep the leather from getting destroyed too quickly. I've just put a lot of miles on these, and instead of getting them expensively resold, I figured gluing a extra sheet of sole material on it might help. But so I like to hike in moccasins. And side note, wearing knee-high moccasins, I've never gotten a tick in these things ever. So big fan. So I wanted to hike.
Good to know.
I honestly though, ticks suck. But wanted to hike the Manistee River Valley with my dad. And the Manistee River Valley is in like northeastern Michigan, lower peninsula. Northwestern Michigan, lower peninsula, and it's just carved out stuff. So there's a lot of like clay and really cool bluffs and cliffs and maples around. And so we get into this trip, and Tenenbaum said it earlier. When you throw unexpected variables into situations, you get unexpected results.
Yeah.
So we had the same sort of thing arise. We wanted to camp for 3 days, but then we saw dark clouds and summer rain happen, and we're like, maybe we should book it out of here a night early. So us being the expert orienteers we are, That face. Don't shame me, Jess. So us being the expert orienteering men that we are, we take out our maps, which is actually just my dad's iPhone, because we all know how reliable iPhone maps are. We take out my dad's iPhone and with a not very clear key, shoot out a pretty good route out of the Manistee River Valley and to a safe place where our car is. But the problem is, we did this whole as the crow flies thing, and if you know anything about cell phone maps, there's not topographical information on them.
Right.
There is no topographical information. So, this whole time we're going up and down hills, and as the crow flies, sure, it was probably shorter, but now I'm halfway through this, realizing this is probably not shorter. We've probably hiked at least twice the distance in simple up and down.
Yeah.
Podiatrist and a good shoe cobbler. You are right, Hike with Mike. Very right.
Mike, he knows what he's talking about.
So we've definitely hiked at least twice the distance, simply going up and down these stupid hills. And so I foreshadowed this with the key. It was a bad map key, not very readable. And it should be, because Apple's whole thing is, it's intuitive and really easy to do for everyone. No, it's not. It's not at all. So naturally, we come over this hill. And if you guys know anything about where birch like to live, they like swampy, duffy ground. And we've been hiking through birch for like half an hour. And we come over this hill and the birch stops, which I thought was good. And then I looked down and I saw cattails and duckweed, which is worse, which is so much worse. So if you know anything about the way this boot looks, you can see the amount of water this boot might hold.
Yep.
So you guys know those really stinky swamps that you're like positive someone's thrown a few thousand diapers into and it's not even a swamp anymore? This is probably just a massive outhouse. It was one of those swamps. So we were faced with, okay, do we go back through all of the birch we just hiked and try and find the trail again? Or do we just keep going on this straight line and kill ourselves going through this disgusting swamp? So we chose the swamp. Spoiler.
Because you're smart.
Because we're smart. We are expert orienteersmen. Just cream of the crop, man.
Just imagine you guys, America, can't stop us.
Something like that. I actually had my dad a patch made that said Stupid River 2016 for the Manistee River Valley for obvious reasons. So yeah, I drop in and at first you think it's not going to be that bad because some swamps are dry and they just smell bad because the sun is making them.
Like a peat bog or whatever.
Yeah, that kind of thing where it's just soft, duffy stuff, but it's mostly moss on top and you can walk on it. This was not that swamp. So I start stepping down the hill and sure, it's a little mushy, and then I sink my foot into my first step and I just do this. And it's just, there's water and dirt. It's probably mostly poo in my boot now. And my brand new set of Minnetonka moccasins are absolutely destroyed because this swamp was like a mile long. And it was the worst thing I've ever done in a pair of boots in my life. And it wasn't even the walking. It was the drive home. The
stinky drive home?
The stinky drive home. Because you have two choices in driving on a highway. You have the windows down or you have the AC on.
Yeah.
This was summer. Neither of those things were working. You could still smell the boots.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I have a brand new pair of footskins in buffalo leather as opposed to the light tan Minnetonka moccasins. Don't think you're an expert orienteersman when you're not, and by God, buy good maps.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so did you had to throw away those moccasins, eh?
Oh, I had to throw them away. I tried to clean them. It did not work.
That smell cannot be removed.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Tenenbaum knows that's not a smell you can get out of something. It's like the cat pee, except worse. Because cat pee you can mask.
You can burn it. That's about.
You can burn it.
You can kill it with fire. So how big a money waste was that then?
I think at the time they cost like 120 a set. They weren't terrible as far as moccasins went, but these weren't custom made.
Okay.
These ones are, and these ones I have not destroyed for that very reason. I don't do stupid things in them. Well, I don't do those kinds of stupid things in them.
But you
I
didn't go
have-
for the
I have to
tan color
say-
again?
Oh no. Because if it ever came down to me doing something else stupid, it's much less obvious on this.
Fair.
It's very dark.
This kind of story gives me pause because it reminds me that there have been times when I've stepped in a swamp and I literally can't get that leg out by myself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need someone else to get me out, which makes me think if I go tripping solo, am I going to die because I get my leg stuck in a swamp and I can't extricate one of my feet?
It will be a tar pits sort of situation where
You got the
archaeologists.
Slokey out and you're sawing off your leg.
You guys remember 127 hours?
I very
That-
specifically do not. No.
Fair enough.
No.
It's a fine film.
No.
It was a fine film. James Franco did great. So I think this would be a tar pit sort of situation where sooner or later archaeologists come and dig up a Tenenbaum, whereupon finding his somewhat preserved gear, they start translating things and realize it's all just swear words.
I was going to say like the best case scenario is you get your foot out but you lose the shoe. But if you've done up your laces or whatever, you can't do it.
Yeah.
Or maybe you could cut yourself out. I don't know.
In which case, you circle back to 127 hours.
No, you don't. No.
Well, hopefully it's the laces and not your leg.
Well, like in that case, those little trenching tools?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that comes in handy at that point, though. Like maybe you should have one of those in your haversack or whatever.
Maybe you're portaging. I mean, maybe you have it, maybe you don't. That's the hard part.
Yeah. So when these archaeologists someday find the partially preserved Tenenbaum right next to a beautifully preserved, fantastic brand new canoe.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, if I ever do go solo, which I'm thinking about, I'm going to have like an inReach or something. So I will tell you of my fate. You will know that that's how it happened.
Okay.
There'll be a series of text messages of how I can't remove my right leg, and I hope that help comes.
Right. Firing like flares into the sky. I just actually, this story has sparked a little bit of discussion down the side here. Hike with Mike says, I love swamps and swamp hiking. That doesn't surprise me because Hike with Mike is, I believe, in Florida. And you've got a lot of swamp stuff in your videos.
Yeah, it almost seems like you wouldn't have much of a choice.
But it also means he probably knows
seriously.
exactly how to get out of some of this.
Oh, yeah.
And he then also said that he came across quicksand once out swamp hiking. My buddy Campfire Steve sunk down in it. It was really weird.
Really?
Sunk down to his upper thighs. That, you see, I've never actually seen real quicksand. I didn't even know. No, I mean, I knew it was real, but I don't know what it looks like. I wouldn't know
Yeah, me
how to
neither.
recognize it,
Or
and
what
even-
it feels like.
or what it feels like. Like, is it the kind of thing where you can disappear under it, or do you just sort of sink down to your thighs and you can climb out? Like, I don't know how much of what I know about quicksand is just Hollywood talking.
Yeah, well,
know?
that's what I was thinking, actually.
Exactly. And I want to point out that Dale Bruce is from Louisiana, so he also knows swamps quite well. So, I mean, maybe one day I should do a live stream specifically about swamp bushcraft.
That would be cool. I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
There's got to be a lot
Yeah,
of cool
that'd be
stuff.
interesting.
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of. If we can get a Hike with Mike to live stream by that point, then.
That sounds like a very unique set of techniques.
Well, I have this thought sometimes because like where my dad lives, it's a pocket desert, right? He lives in the Lower Okanagan.
really?
Yeah. And there is very, very, very rare times when you're allowed to light a fire. Because brush fires turn into forest fires like that. Ponderosa pines have a real thick bark, and in fact, their life cycle depends on like a 5 to 10 year fire cycle. But you still go to jail if you start a massive forest fire. And it's, like I keep thinking, like my skills are specific to boreal forest or whatever mixed we have around Montreal. Your typical temperate North American forest. I wouldn't know what the hell to do in in a desert environment or a swamp environment.
Somehow, though, as a young child, I thought quicksand would be a much larger problem in my life. I watched a lot of cartoonage in George of the Jungle that convinced me one day, Tyler, you will find a quicksand pit and you will be caught in it, and you have to know what to do. And you know what? No matter the amount of Ranger Rick magazines I read, I never encountered a quicksand pit.
Me neither. I never read Ranger Rick, though. Outdoor Dauber was up to his knees in silty mud and swamp water launching his kayak tonight. Outdoor
Nicely
just
done, Paul.
he picked up a new kayak, which is cool.
I do believe I'm going to hop off now and head back to watching things and absentmindedly playing.
All right. Well, if you have any more stories, come back on.
I will.
Whoops.
Later.
Quebec Homestead. Nice one, Mallory. So, Sales, you got any stories? Oh, you do have stories.
Yeah, I do have a few stories. I figured that the best one would probably start with chronologically the first camping trip I've ever done.
Okay.
This was with my brother and I think we were 3 other people. And we ranged from the ages of 11 to 15, if my memory serves me right. So already it's going to get interesting. Basically, what happened was the 5 of us, we got dropped off by one of our parents. And basically, it wasn't at a campsite or anything like that. She dropped us off on the side of an exit of an autoroute, and we just went into the forest, and that's where we stayed for I think 2-3 nights. So not very legal, but that's okay.
Fine.
And it was a piece of land that's like adjacent to some farms. So basically, it's just like this like wooded area. It wasn't like a big forest or anything like that. But for us, it was fun. It was cool for us. And frankly, it's like I've told this story not that long ago to my sister, and she's like, "Oh my God, our parents let you do that?" It's like.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we set up camp, and then we went like exploring around. We found like there was a pasture with cows. We were hitting it with slingshots. Poor cows. But anyway, and eventually we found a little cabin, and it was like this old abandoned cabin, probably from the 70s or something. And in the cabin, we found. I think it was like camping fuel or kerosene, and it's like a 4-liter container, and I think it was about half full. So we decided, hey, let's bring that back to camp, being the wise kids that we were, And at that point, that evening, we were like, okay, well, let's make a fire, and obviously we took out the kerosene, And we made like this huge pile of like branches and like of all kinds of stuff, and wood.
An expertly
basically.
made fire.
Expertly made fire, And so my brother starts putting. No, actually, it was one of our friends. He was the youngest of the group. He was 11. He put some. And then my brother comes along and says, "Nah, that's not enough." So he starts putting some on, and then finally he puts it down and. Then another one of our friends who didn't notice the first kid that put it on. And he's like, "What are you doing? That's not enough." And he puts some. Well, he was the last one to do it. So, he lights the match. He just lights it and just throws it in.
Boom.
There's a mushroom cloud. Okay.
I mean, there's a couple things about that. The first is that the bottle says it's kerosene, but you don't know that it's kerosene.
You have no idea.
No, I know. Of course
Could have been
not.
Agent Orange, for God's sake.
And the other thing is that people don't think about this, but gasoline, for example, doesn't really burn. It detonates.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that could have been exciting.
Yeah. If that had been gasoline, holy crap!
It was exciting. I mean, there was maybe I think a good 20 feet circumference that was just engulfed in flames. All our leg hairs were singed. There's still some little twigs and stuff that was still a little bit on fire after the fact that you had the big mushroom cloud. And I mean, it freaked me out. I'm like, we're never doing that again. And anyway, just to say that that was insane. But that wasn't the only thing that happened on that trip. On that trip, we also ran out of water. Now the thing was, it was what, the 90s. So there's no cell phone. There's no way to communicate. All we knew is that in 3 days, my friend's mom was going to come and pick us up. And I think this is at the end of the second day or something like that.
Wow.
So we still had some time to go without water. So now we're starting to look
Bear
at our
Grylls
options.
shows you what to do. You just start drinking your piss. Come on, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny that you come to that. The first thing we thought of was the cooler water, because we had ice in the cooler,
Right.
and that melted, and we're like, well, it's kind of nasty. There's little bits of stuff in there. Maybe what we could do is filter it with toilet paper. And so nah, it's kind of nasty. But then one of my friends suggested there's a pond where the cows were.
Oh God.
And he's like, we should take that water and boil it. But the thing is, we were there. We saw the cows pooing and peeing in that pond. I mean, it's
fine for it'll be fine for a day or two. It's the back end of that you're gonna really not enjoy.
Well, the water's brown, and I'm thinking, why would you even suggest something like that? It's what you're doing by boiling it. You're not sterilizing it. You're just
you're turning it into soup.
Yeah. You're getting rid of all the actual water. So what we end up doing is actually filtering the water from the cooler, but it tastes like toilet paper. It was awful. So
but why toilet paper? I mean, you guys had socks, right? Clean socks. I mean,
yeah, no, they weren't clean no more at that point.
Okay, so you didn't have
No. It was the first time camping, so we didn't think about having an exchange of clothing. We had clothes for each day, but we didn't have any extras. No extra underwear, no extra pants, shirts, socks, none of that. And for one of my friends, that could have been useful, because at one point, a few of us went over the fence where the cows were, and we didn't see the bull.
Oh fuck! I mean, oh gee.
I was going to say, did you consider milking a cow?
No. And I wouldn't have milked a cow. Not at 12, 13 years old anyway. But anyway, my friends ran, obviously, from the back into the forest from where the bull was. And one of my friends slipped on a cow pie. So he was covered from, I'd say, up to his knee, almost up to his armpit, of poo. So we learned a lot that weekend. But we had a lot of good memories, and now we know you need more of just one change of clothing if you're going for one night.
Oh my land, that poor kid.
But it was a lot of good lessons there.
But we had it's a good funny
time.
What you were saying about that fire with all the kerosene and everything. My sister has scars on her leg because this is not it happened outdoors, but not in the outdoors, because she's not a big camper. She was sitting in the backyard at at some of my cousins' place out in Chateauguay. And they had one of those, those backyard fire pits, the cast iron, blah blah blah, with the
right,
decorations around, and there's a so they had a fire going in there. So they were burning a fire in there, eh? And these are the types of people who, when the fire goes down, instead of adding wood and being respectful of the fire, they just squeeze more of that gel on, the fire starter gel. So, hey, the fire's going down there, eh? No problem.
You mean the one that burns invisibly and is incredibly hot?
the one that he squeezed, foomp, big explosion,
Oh, jeez.
burning globs of this stuff flying everywhere, burning little holes in the in the nap, whatever that thing is called, the tablecloth that was on the picnic table. Set the bangs of like the mother-in-law on fire, and like these globs of burning gel landed on my sister's thigh. She's wearing shorts, so of course my sister's the type to scream and run. So she's panicking, running around the backyard. My cousin is running after her with the hose. The hose is on, running around after her. Finally, the other cousin tackles her, and they. But it's just like, you got to respect the fire.
No,
if you don't respect fire, you will eventually end up with scars, you know? And
that stuff is actually scary stuff.
It's very scary stuff. And who the hell? No. Those who have learned how to do a fire are not going to throw freaking napalm on it while it's already lit.
Yeah.
In fact, those of us who've really learned how to make a fire would only use that kind of gel crap or gas or whatever last resort, right? Look, I can't get the damn thing started, or I got to get a fire started now. I don't carry it.
It has a legitimate use, which is some of the older camping stoves would not function until they reached a certain temperature. So if you're on a mountain, it's minus 20. What you do is you burn a bunch of that crap on the element, and that would get it hot enough that the recirculated gas would actually get to run. So there's a reason for it to exist. It's not to start a regular campfire. It's extreme reason.
And I was so pissed off, and I had to take a day off work to take her to the hospital because she thought I was getting infected, and she's like, "Don't tell mom."
Did that work?
I guess I don't even remember. This isn't that long ago, but it's long enough now that I really only remember like the big hits. But I that's the kind of backyard I never want to be sitting in. Right? Because if I see someone,
is Colette watching?
No, not right now. No, I checked.
Okay.
Geez, I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh, it's not like she can watch this later.
No, absolutely not. Serge. But anyways, I remember that, and I was just I was so pissed off, and like the cousin felt really bad about it and everything. But learn, if you're going to have a fire in your backyard, learn how to do it. Because if you're gonna have a fire in the campsite, you're gonna. Actually, I saw some pretty stupid stuff last time we went camping. But I was gonna say, you're gonna learn how to light a fire and keep it going. But it's just it needs your respect. It needs your respect. You don't have to be able to light it with flint and steel. Okay, if you're gonna use matches or a lighter, I don't. But I'm not here to hate on anyone. But even like matches and lighter doesn't equal not knowing anything about fire. It's a really easy way to get a fire lit. The coals are burning down, so you throw a glob of napalm on it. That tells me you don't know what the hell you should not have a fire pit. Mm-hmm. You're not safe. Oh no! Look what Hike with Mike just posted. Yuck.
Oh. that stuff cannot be good for you.
No, anything in there. Hike with Mike also says, I like flint and steel and natural materials. Yeah, me too.
Serge's story has reminded me of two miniature stories I could tell if we don't have an alternative.
Sure. I'm going to post the invite to anyone else who wants to come on and tell their best, funniest, or worst outdoor stories.
Okay, the first one is from the West Coast Trail, and it's also about 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had come off a half a season of tree planting in northern Alberta. The company I was with went bankrupt, so we headed west.
How does a tree planting company go bankrupt in Alberta?
The earlier contracts didn't pay fast enough, and they just didn't have enough bridge money to run the operation through. The local grocery store just wouldn't extend them any more credit, so there was no more food, and that was
Oof. That. Okay.
So anyway, we headed west, and Vancouver, and then eventually Vancouver Island. And I had the pleasure of doing the West Coast Trail with a friend of mine who I've been planting with. One thing that made this trip interesting is we didn't really have hiking gear. I had a backpack, but I didn't have lightweight stuff or lightweight food. So we bought a bunch of canned food, and my pack weighed a ton. But that wasn't the biggest problem. If you've ever done the West Coast Trail or read about it, one of the trickiest things on that trail is water. The trail runs right along the Pacific Ocean. So, of course, you've got access to unlimited salt water, but that's not going to help you.
No.
What you have to do is you have to fill up. Every time you cross a creek where there's fresh water, you have to fill up.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that that fresh water lasts until you reach the next creek. And, most people do this trail in about 5 to 7 days. I think it took us 6 or 7. And we did pretty well till we were about halfway through, until we had a day where there just wasn't a creek that was accessible for a long, long time.
Okay.
And we finally came to a creek, but it was a little bit tidal, which is to say the water wasn't brackish, but it wasn't exactly fresh either. Now, we were really thirsty by this point because we'd run out of water hours and hours ago, and we'd been hiking. To get to the point where the creek is not tidal anymore, you have to walk inland a good distance. And so we walked a bit, and then we gave up. And we said, well, we're going to use this water. We're going to put some, drink mix in it to give it some flavor. We'll use some iodine to make sure that it's safe. I can tell you that slightly salty, slightly iodine-y, slightly artificial raspberry water.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not good.
Right.
So the moral of the story, much like the moral of that part of Serge's story, is make sure you have a good source of water. Water is...
Yeah.
But you guys didn't get like Giardia or anything like that?
No, we didn't get sick. We didn't get sick. Well, I mean, the iodine we put in there would have killed anything.
Yeah.
And then, that's not the greatest method of disinfection. It's disgusting, but it does work.
Fair.
So that was a little bit about water, and the other one's a little bit about a cow. This is not as long ago. This is about 15 years ago. I was doing a postdoctoral study. I was actually in the Okanagan Valley, near Vernon, and our field sites were in a watershed upland of the valley. Down in the valley, you find lots of cows. One of the things they do there is they raise red and black Angus cows.
Yeah.
And they also graze them. They'll let them walk up into the hills and forage in the forest. And I was out there with my supervisor, who was a full-time Environment Canada employee, who was, as all federal employees are, appropriately concerned with health and safety.
Mm-hmm.
And he was concerned with the possibility that we might run into a grizzly bear or a moose at some point. And he was worried about that, and he had kept bear spray well at hand at all times. So we were out of our vehicle doing the things that we do, collecting data, and I heard something big moving around in the trees. And I've been around a bit. I've been in the woods a bit, and I know the difference between something small and something big. And this sounded big. I said to my friend, I said, there's something big moving around in the woods there. And he said, well, what do you think it is? I said, well, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's moving. It's not making noises, but it sounds like it could be a moose.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, are you sure it's not a bear? I said, well, no, I haven't seen it. I'm not sure it's not anything. So he runs to the Jeep, grabs the bear spray, and out of the forest appears a huge cow. The biggest cow. I'm not talking about a moose here. I'm talking about a cow.
Yeah.
The biggest cow I've ever seen. It was not a bull.
Big old Angus.
It was a lady cow, but it was, 6 feet at the shoulder. And it just looked at us like we were from another planet because, well, what are we doing there?
Yeah.
We're in its forest. And, it looked at us a bit, and then it walked back into the forest, and that was that. But you never know. You never know what you're going to meet, I guess, is the moral of that one.
Yeah.
That was fun. My supervisor was relieved that the bear spray was not required. Although I think that cow could have been as dangerous as anything else. I mean,
it could have been.
They can be. I don't. I've heard before that they can be.
Well, you know, we talk about like bulls often being like aggressive and everything like that, but cows, female cows are as deadly as the males. You know, if they're like enraged, they could be a formidable animals too.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be feel comfortable having like this, you know, random cow in the forest like that. It's like, what are you doing here? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say hi to Fox at Outdoors. How's it going? Welcome to the live stream. And for those of you who are just joining us now, I'll put the invite again. I'm inviting people to just come on and tell me their funniest, worst, or best outdoor stories. Camping, hiking, paddling, just whatever. Figure you guys hear my stupid voice enough. I kind of want to hear you guys a little more tonight. Serge and Tenenbaum have been regaling me with some, some really good stories. Tyler was on before. Tyler's got some good stories too. Maybe we can get Outdoor Dauber to come on. He's probably got some good stories.
Oh, for sure. He must have a few.
Yeah. Yep.
In
Outdoor
the meantime,
Dauber was no, you go.
Go on.
I refuse to go on. You go.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I guess I'll tell this one too, because I find this one's also a pretty good one. So back in college, so this is like a good some 20 some odd years ago. A few of us, we decided to do a camping trip with like many of our friends. I think we're maybe 8-10 people, something like that. Where half of us have done camping before, and the other half are basically city slickers. You know, they don't know anything about camping. And
you know what I hate about that situation? You know what I hate about that? That's like the school project where the nerd does all the work and the cool kids sort of hang out in the back of the room and chat. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of, but you know, we're still close friends and stuff, so we knew it's not like it wouldn't be like a one-way thing. Like we'd show them what to do, and they'd do it, and they did.
Okay.
But the thing about this particular trip is, I think it was like in Magog or Stansted. I forgot where it was, but we had a 2-kilometer hike to the campsite, and some people didn't quite realize, like, didn't understand when you have to hike to your campsite. You can't be bringing along your Coleman Big Boy, for example. And if you don't know what a Coleman Big Boy is, it's the biggest freaking cooler they sell. Okay? He brought that along. And we're like, what the hell? You know? So, you know, so it starts like that. And
if it starts like that, it can only get better, right?
Right. And I found out after the fact, within the cooler, I mean, he had a whole like bottle of ketchup, and it's not it's not just like your plastic squeeze. No, it's like the glass ketchup and everything. It's like
the Heinz.
Yeah, he couldn't get anything heavier than what was in that cooler. It was ridiculous. But anyway, so we do the hike. We help them out. I had one guy who actually had a propane heater for the night. I'm like, dude, you don't need this. You know, it's like if you have a good sleeping bag, you don't need a heater in your tent. But whatever, you know, I digress. We went with city slickers. That's what happens. What we weren't aware of was that for the next night, we had to travel to another site. And for the third night, it was again we had to move. So it's like a camp. The way this campground worked is you constantly moved. So the next people coming in are going in your first campsite, and so on.
Yeah.
So it kind of annoyed us because we didn't realize it worked like that there. And well, having a bunch of people that don't normally do camping or have never experienced camping before. It's not very convenient, especially with a Coleman big boy.
Oh,
So what we end up doing, we said, okay, a few of us, we're gonna go scour the area, and we found an area which was like up a hill, and then there was like a little kind of like valley depression, if you will. And we said, look, we'll just come here. We already paid, so
yeah.
we're not necessarily camping illegally. I mean, we pay. We're on the campground. It's just we're not using their official campground, and we'll just set up camp there. They won't be able to find us because we're hidden, and so we decided to make a camp there. So we go back and we try to get the other people to come with us, and many people did not want to come with us. So the night before too, somebody got black velvet out and got like kind of drunk and sick. That person shall remain nameless, but it wasn't me.
Narrows it down.
But that night, I slept back to this person. Because if they tried to lie down, they would throw up. So I slept with that person's on my back, and I slept like that too. It was horrible. So I had a horrible night. It smelled like puke, and I wanted just to go to the other campsite and just go there and just try to have a good time. But finally, the people are like, no, that's illegal camping. No. So finally, we just like dug out, and we didn't even spend the 2 other nights there. It was a massive failure, but that's why you don't get half a group of people that have never gone camping before. After that, I'm like, never again. I might bring like one person that's never done camping before, or but having half the group.
You want your city slickers to be few enough in the group that carrying their weight doesn't cause unnecessary hardship.
Yeah, and I think if we didn't have to move, it wouldn't have been that bad.
Absolutely.
I mean, like before, like we say, okay, we gotta get like little branches and stuff, cut them up to make a fire and everything like that. And people are pitching in and doing what they're basically told to do, and we were showing them what to do in certain situations and stuff. So that part was fun, And for them, despite the fact that we only had one night, they still had a good time because they had never done that before,
Right.
And that was part of it. Was the whole goal is to introduce people to the wilderness, to camping, because they had barely set foot outside of the city,
Yeah.
So in the end, it was quite disappointing, despite everything. And what sucked also is that when I went back to tell the others that in the other group that set up camp up on the hill that we were leaving, it was so discouraging because the way they set up the campsite was like they couldn't have done a better job. Like they put the fire like in an area where it was like the canopy was opened up, so the flames wouldn't not the flames, but the les étincelles, the embers. Thank you. Wouldn't catch fire to anything. The tents were nicely placed, and it's like it was still kind of well covered. And even as I was going up the hill, because it was getting dark at that point, when we were going up the hill to you couldn't really tell that there was people up there.
Nice.
So again, we could have like gone away with it, and I don't think they would have really. Yeah, they could have said, "Oh, don't come here again," But at this point, we didn't really care because I don't think we were going to go back there anyway. So,
okay.
But anyway, I digress. Despite everything, we still had some fun, but it was still a massive failure.
Yeah, it's too bad that you had to end the. Hey, Alain's here.
Oh,
Both the Belso brothers.
Maybe you could elaborate on that story.
Well, does Alain ever actually come online?
I don't know. He's kind of camera shy, so I don't know.
Hike with Mike. I like this idea. A fun video series would be sending a subtropical camper to Canada in winter and sending a Canadian to the subtropical swamps in summer and see each react. That would be a lot of fun.
Oh,
Dude,
jeez.
drop me in a
Seriously.
subtropical swamp in summer and I would just melt. I'd be like, how do people live here? You know, which might actually be part of the fun, right, of the series.
Incidentally, have either of you been watching the new series of Alone?
No, it's
One.
hey, what's it on? What network is it on?
Discovery or
Yeah.
History? History.
See, I don't get any channels because we cut the cable. So if it's not something that I can get over the air, or it's not on like Netflix or Amazon Prime, I can't see it.
I mention it because one of the guys is a guy from El Salvador, but they're in the Arctic. But he's actually doing really well, which is quite impressive. I don't know. I don't know that he'll win necessarily, but it's interesting to see a guy whose main experience, or at least experience growing up, was in a very, very different environment.
Yeah.
But in the Arctic, he's doing all right. I think maybe the temperature will be a problem for him eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I guess we're 7 episodes in and he's still there. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how because you know certain skills translate easily, right? I mean, if you know how to use a knife, you know how to use a knife, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So in some cases, it's just an everyday thing. Same with a fire, you know. If you could start a fire in one place, you could start a fire in another place. You just got to know what burns best, you know. So I'd be curious to see how he translates it.
Well, he fishes well and he snares well and he hunts well. So yeah, all those things which are, you know, procuring food and keeping yourself warm are the things that he's doing just well enough to do well.
To stay in the game.
Yeah.
So with that show, does somebody get like voted off the island or whatever every episode kind of thing?
It varies because, you know, there are 10 participants and they edit it so that, you know, they have different story arcs, and usually at least one person leaves per episode, but it varies a bit. This season has a $1 million prize.
Wow.
Oh, geez.
And they've brought in 10 people who seem to have a fair amount of experience. So the trick is you have to get the $1 million, you have to be the last one standing, and you have to make it for 100 days into the winter.
Wow.
And it's so far it's been I've been impressed. I mean, I've always enjoyed watching that show, but this one seems to be on another level in terms of the level of skill and the level of difficulty. I mean, they had one guy, he's an Alaskan guide, who took down a muskox, which was quite impressive. And so he's got meat for days.
Yeah.
Many of them did well in terms of trapping snowshoe hare, lots of those. And they almost all used gill nets, and they got lots and lots of fish out of Great Slave until, of course, it got cold and the fish sort of disappeared. But it's been an interesting watch.
And are they in Alaska or are they in like?
They're in Canada. They're on Great Slave Lake.
Oh, Great Slave. Okay.
Which is a location they've used before. So it's far enough. It's not technically in the Arctic Circle. It's just south of there. And it's not, it's boreal forest, but it's rocky, so it's not wet. There's a good amount of terrain. Lots of animals. Wolverine has been a major problem for several of the contestants. You know, some of them didn't realize that a wolverine will steal your food basically no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And so a few people had lost their caches, and then
oh no,
that led to other things.
Brandon says that this season has been great so far, and evidently Grace has been watching as well.
Yeah, I would say that it's been quite exciting, and the contestants, I think, have been sort of a cut above previous years in terms of level of experience. Quite a few of them make their livings professionally guiding or being outside.
Yeah, that's going to make a difference. Yeah.
I have no idea who's going to win, but we shall see.
Well, it makes me very curious now to to see the show, because I too I'm a cord cutter, so I don't see these shows that much.
No, and it's funny because Oh, Mallory just said something interesting. I'll wait for it to pop up in the StreamYard. Yeah. Boom. Wolverine will face a bear with no hesitation. That's pretty crazy.
Pound for pound, they are just the most amazing animals. They can run all day. Great sense of smell, fearless, tough, huge range.
Adamantium skeletons.
Nearest thing.
That was like
a huge badger or weasel.
Yeah, I was about to say that Wolverine versus honey badger. I'd love to see that competition.
Honey badger don't care. Honey badger don't give a shit. I wonder if anyone has even seen that video in years.
I have no idea.
I had something brilliant to say, and I got sidetracked, so I don't remember what it was.
Sorry, my fault.
Yeah, it's always your fault, Serge. What the hell? I was. Jeez, I don't know. I was about to riff off of something that someone said in the side chat, and it's gone. Dale gets it. Honey badger don't care. Fox, I dug into a dead tree in raining conditions out camping in the... Is that Ocala or Osala? Ocala. Made a roof of palm trees, and we used the dry dead tree wood to get a fire started. See? Hike with Mike knows, because like if I was sitting in the swamp, I would be like, okay, I can make a palm tree roof. Actually, yeah, because... Sorry, guys. Oh, what a day. Because, of course, if there's wet standing deadwood, you just slice off the outer layers until you get to dry wood. So, yeah, so I guess what I was about to say, I've totally backtracked on. And yeah, some skills are definitely portable. The thing is, I wouldn't know how to like weave a palm tree roof. I would just like be trying to layer them. And I don't know if there's a specific way to put palm trees so that the water sheds optimally or anything like that. I don't know.
But perhaps you have your pocket SAS survival guide with you, and you could look it up.
True. Yep. Now, Grace.
I probably do the same thing that you say too. I just try to layer them and hope for the best at that point, you know.
Oh, hilariously, Hike with Mike says I layered them. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
See, us three, we would do fine. We'd do great. I'm gonna put the invite for other people again. See if anyone bites. Yeah, it's fun. I don't have any really, really great outdoor stories. You know, once my dad and my sister and I were rock hopping through a creek, and I was crawling over two large-sized boulders, like errata, and I was on top, and I don't know what. I have this memory of kicking a rock out from between them, and that causing them to roll into the middle of the stream. But it might have just been that being on top of them sort of at an angle kind of took the balance off or something. But I do remember, man, I was on top of these two big boulders, and at least one of them started rolling. I was just scrambling to stay on top of it. And, you know, after that was all over, things stopped in the middle of the creek, and I'm just, and I look over at my dad and my sister, and they're both like, what? Wow. And it, like, in my memory, these things just kept rolling, but they probably only like, you know, patump, patump, patump kind of thing, you know? But the memory of an event can be very easily expanded, shall we say. But I tend not to clamber over the boulders anymore. I go around them if I can.
Yeah, well, you kind of learn your lessons.
Yeah. I'm just taking a look at the side chat here, seeing if you have to layer the leaves from the bottom up, pretty much like roof shingles. Okay. So like,
yeah,
palm leaf, palm leaf. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense a lot. Like what Mike says, I'm around alligators and snakes, and they don't bother me at all. But bears are the only animal I keep an eye out for. Seeing my first rattlesnake while I was out in the Okanagan was an event. That's for sure. I wasn't in danger. I mean, I was far enough away, but it's just I had never seen one before. So it's like something you only ever see in movies or pictures or whatever is in front of you, is in front of you, and that has at least visual impact. Yeah, interesting stuff, man. There are so many different kinds of creatures out there, and just because you don't ever see them in your neck of the woods doesn't mean that they're not everywhere.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because I went camping this weekend, first time in like I think almost a decade, and it was the first time I went with my daughter Julia, and Alain came along with us. He's been wanting to go camping as well for a long time, so it's like, all right, come with us. But as you know, Alain's been taking photographs of birds for the past like year or so, or maybe even a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been up. Well, we've been up to that land for a while now. You and I, I've been there quite a few times, and I never realized that there are hawks there. And like, and I took a whole bunch of great pictures of them there. I only got the ass end of one, but that's all right. I'm not as skilled as he is yet, but he's got the knack right now to spot where the birds are, and it's incredible. Like the wildlife is right there. You just got to know where to look for it.
You just have to, yeah.
And it's impressive that the fact that like for example, those hawks, I never knew they were there, and like the people that own the land, they're like, yeah, we see them all the time. We see them on the branch over there, like every other day. I'm like, oh well, geez, I never knew. But again, I wasn't looking for it. I didn't, I'm not there all the time either.
Yeah.
So unless you're constantly somewhere all the time and you don't really pay attention, you just happen to see it and you kind of notice it, then you won't know unless you're actively looking for it either. Animals hide, right? Animals, they don't.
Even if you are actively looking, it can be quite challenging. I spent one summer as a field assistant for a student who was doing a project on goshawks. And so she received a list from the Ministry of Natural Resources Ontario for sites where they thought goshawks were nesting. And we spent a summer driving around trying to find the damn things. And I can tell you that in 2 months, I heard a goshawk once.
Wow.
Never saw one. We got to the right place once, obviously, because we heard it flying around, making its characteristic song. But something you really got to take it as it comes. You got to see what you're going to see. Trying to go and find things, specific things, can be very, very hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But for sure, for me, especially the last few times I went out with my brother taking pictures of birds, it's unbelievable how much wildlife there still is out there, despite the fact that we're pushing them back into their habitats and everything like that. We're just walking, and I'm trying to remember what park it is. I think it's Deliès, Parc de Deliès, Montreal. I think
that's the one out near the airport, near
I think so.
Donegal or whatever it's called. Yeah. They have a kids day camp there in the summer called Gype, where Camille went to camp this summer. It's a very large. You're talking Parc Nature de Liesse?
I think so. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if Alain's still on or not. He could maybe tell us, but and that's it. Like I went with him, and we saw these big woodpeckers, and that's it. I've never seen these. Usually the woodpeckers I've seen, they're like tiny, and
Yeah, the pileated woodpeckers, they're huge.
Yeah, big.
yeah,
Huge.
and
Yeah.
the thing on top of it is that they weren't on the tree. They were actually on the ground. There's two of them like gnawing at like this dead wood on the ground,
Mhm.
and I've never seen that before. I'm like, holy crap! Like, it was, I don't know, it was strange, and it's like, again, if you don't look for it, if you're not attentive to it, you won't see it.
Yep.
So I found that pretty interesting too.
Once back when I still went hunting in the fall, once I came out of my blind to go and have lunch. I came down the excuse me. I came down the ladder, and I had my boomstick, and I saw two does coming almost directly at me, like over a hill. So I didn't move, and they just kept on coming, and I just didn't move. And didn't move, and they weren't hurrying, right? They were sort of tug, munch, tug, enjoying being next to each other or something, taking their time, and they just kept coming, and I didn't move, and like one of them sort of passed by over there, but the other one, she passed me by as well, but like so close that it was like from about the width of my desk. I mean, like 4 feet away from me. I didn't move, and it just kept, and it didn't even, like, I think if I had moved in any way, it would have gotten spooked. So I wonder if they see by movement or something, because she just kept she practically stepped on my foot. I went past, and then as they got to, like, there's a little track, like a little 4-wheeler track. And as they got there, I guess they caught, like, I guess the wind blew my scent to them, because one of them did that thing where they look up, like, tap, you know that, right? Pock on the ground. He's like, okay, they're leaving. And so they sort of trotted off. They didn't do the bolt thing, but they took off with alacrity. But it was funny that this thing walked right past me and then smelled me 10 feet away and suddenly got all, stomping the ground and taking off. It was a magical moment, because I'd never been that close to one of them before. At least not outside of a Park Omega kind of context, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was really interesting. Yeah, weird moment. I don't think I'll forget that anytime soon.
Yeah,
By the way,
there's some. Sorry.
I was just going to say, Serge, Alain said, yeah, it was Parc Nature de Baudelaire. Yeah, I spend a lot of my lunchtimes there when I'm not all COVIDed up the wazoo, because I work near there.
You're lucky enough that you got a place that you could go like that.
Yeah,
it's especially on the island there. There aren't a whole lot of places, so
no. There's got to be some nice spots out where you live now, though, eh?
Yeah, I think there are a few. It's just I haven't gone out that much exploring there. There was that little place that not far from here, which I just spotted on Google Maps. Is like, it looks like paths in the woods. It was kind of weird, and I went, and that's all it is. It's just like a bunch of paths, and it looks like it's put there on purpose. Initially I thought there were like paths to kind of like indicate where future roads would be.
Yeah.
Because it looks like there should be roads there. But as I went there, there's like signs up saying like no 4-wheelers, and I forgot what else there, but the signs look like really old. So it's like those paths have been there for a while,
Yeah.
Mountain biking.
And What's that?
Mountain biking, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe mountain biking trails.
Maybe, but it's pretty flat land, so I would think that's kind of boring for mountain biking. I used to do some mountain biking when I was younger, which is kind of makes me laugh when you guys were talking about the swamps before. Well, Tyler anyway, because when we used to go biking, well, first of all, when you're biking in the woods like that, you don't really get like flies and mosquitoes like bothering you, and second of all, you're going quickly through the woods, so you don't really have time to assess the area that you're going into.
Yeah.
And it's happened a few times that we went off on these other trails that it had like rained a lot and it was like swampy. And when your wheels get stuck in that, you can't move, you know?
Yeah.
So you get off your bike and you start like moving, and that's when the mosquitoes and the black flies like come after you. You're like,
Yeah.
geez, and then you
I hate
can't.
my life.
Yeah, seriously.
Everything
And-
was going so well, and then
And then you go,
exactly.
yeah,
And it's not like you could get away from them because you can't like just go out in the woods or and just like move off quicker. You're trailing this bike next to you, which is like it seems like heavier than usual just because it's like stuck in like swamp water, you know.
yeah. Yeah.
It's horrible.
I just want to say a couple of things. Hi to Austin's Corner. Welcome. I'm putting again the invite to anyone who wants to come on and tell their funniest, worst, or best outdoor stories to the group. I also want to reference Grace Martin's story. She said that she'd been camping with her son when he hiked out to go back to the car and get a few things and didn't come back, and she couldn't even get a fire started. But she was afraid of getting lost in the dark, so she waited until daylight and hiked back to the car and discovered that he'd broken his leg in 2 places.
Oh my.
So that's not a good story. How did he break his leg, Grace? I might have missed that part.
Yeah, I missed that in the side chat as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay up to date because there's a lot of really cool conversations going on there. But yeah, so hi Austin. Dale, do y'all ever get on here earlier? I think he might be talking to Austin. But yeah, so anyone who has a couple of stories that they want to tell, and you've got a camera and headphones, you can get on. As I always say, let's not do politics or guns.
at the risk, while we're waiting, at the risk of putting Serge on the spot, how was the tent?
Oh, the tent is actually pretty good. And funny story. My daughter, as I was trying to set up the sleeping bags and everything like that, she zipped up like the outer shell. She zipped it up, so it was kind of like caught in between. And I was trying to unzip it, and the zipper kind of like like snagged. So now it's not aligned properly. So I'm gonna have to fix that somehow.
Yeah, you can fix that. It's a drag, but you can get it fixed.
Yeah, so it's like
I'm glad to hear it didn't fail you horribly.
no, it didn't fail me at all. It was just the zipper, and I'm like kind of frustrated because it's like it's the first time I'm using the tent, and already there's like something with it. You know, it's like ah. But hey,
kids are a hazard.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she's 7. I'm not. I was angry with her at the time there, but I tried to get over it because I didn't want to ruin the whole weekend because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to take everything a little lighter with kids,
Yeah.
And I'd gotten mad with her before too, so it's like I'm like, okay, I gotta calm down because I don't want to ruin this trip. But in the end, no, we had fun, and the tent, despite the fact that we were 2 in it, I'm like, yeah, that's the limit for it.
Yep,
Can't be two. It's a 2-person tent, but it's a tight 2-person. I find, we had enough space for me and her, and I mean, she's 7, she's tiny, so I'll know for sure for next time, you know.
I mean, a typical 2-person tent is either comfortable for a single person,
Yeah.
or a tight fit for 2 people who like each other a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I go out with another girl, I'm like, you want to go camping? We'll have to snooch together. Anyway, I digress.
I'm pretty sure you'll go out with another girl at some point, Serge.
Oh, for sure. But no, I was very pleased with the tent, and I like the fact that like the older ones, you had for the poles, you have to put them through these like little tubes and stuff. These are like hooks. It's so much easier to put up. It's like
clips are very smart. They make it really easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a good solid tent. I'm very pleased with it. Thank you.
Camille and I have used ours a couple of times, including in the rain. No problems. No problems at all. So we're very happy with it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's funny, you like you look at, because the mine it's a sort of a quasi vintage version of the Hubba Hubba, but it's newer than my, what do I have, a Coleman? No, it's a Columbia, like a big honking Columbia that the missus and I got together when we were still fairly new. So I think I've had it about 15 years. And I've said this to you, Tenenbaum, I think, or maybe I've said it in a previous live stream. If anyone's bored, just sort of say something rude in the side chat, and one of my mods will kick you off. Kidding. It's the difference between a tent that's designed to be sold in like Canadian Tire or Target, and a tent that's designed by a company that clearly has campers working in it. The difference is night and day, because the designs make so much more sense on something like Serge is talking about, or that that I'm talking about with the Hubba Hubba. The degree of design is just so much higher. You spend on that, right? You're talking about these tents sort of clock in around the $500 or $600 mark for a two person tent, versus I think it was $180 or something for a 6-man tent. That Columbia thing. Columbia is not the brand it used to be. Eh? Who was I talking to about this? Was this you, Tenenbaum?
Quite possibly.
No, I think it was Pine Martin, because we've had this conversation, but I've also had it with Pine Martin. And
the one nice thing I have to say about Columbia is that if you are a bigger person, there are very few brands left that make big and tall size outdoor clothing.
Yeah,
Columbia is one of them. So if you're bigger than 2X and you want a waterproof, breathable jacket, there are very few choices on the market now, but Columbia is one of them. So that's one positive thing I can say about them. That if it were not for them, people like me would now be naked.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
the forest, which is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's forest bathing, as the Japanese say.
In a really direct sense, yes.
Yeah, in a more direct sense than the Japanese talk about. First of all, I do want to say, Tyler, man, no, let's be nice. Oh, Hike with Mike likes Kelty and Bestport. I know Kelty, not hugely because I've never owned one, but I've seen a bunch of them, but I don't know Bestport.
Kelty is a good brand for a combination of low cost and quality. No question about it.
Yeah. Now, also, Serge, good thing to do with tent zippers, as Hike with Mike says, is rub candle wax on the zippers. It will keep them from snagging the tent material. Grace Martin, who also knows everything, it seems, also said, or soap or paraffin. I would not use soap in a rainy situation, but yeah, paraffin or candle wax both seem to be good. Both seem to be good options.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to realign it first, though.
Yeah, you're gonna have to fix your issue now first. I don't think it's impossible. I've had a misaligned zipper on all kinds of things, and every time I hate my life But I eventually get them. The only time it's been like, forget it, I'm not dealing with this, was on an Arcturix jacket. So I sent it back and they replaced the zipper with one that is not color matched. But it's okay. It's okay. But
Well,
yeah,
luckily
most of the
it's
time.
only the shell. It's not that big of a deal. I think I would have been a lot more pissed if it would have been on the door itself. But
Yeah, that would have
no,
sucked.
it's just on the outer shell. It's not as big as a deal. I just don't want to tear it by accident trying to fix it. That's the only thing, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I'll get
that
it done
makes sense.
for sure.
Brandon says sort of there's a bunch of people saying essentially this. He adds +1 to the 10. Why don't I just start that entire sentence again? He says that he adds +1 to the tent capacity for the number of people he usually camps with. So it's kind of like we were saying, if you're sleeping alone, take a 2-person tent. If there are 2 of you, come on, knock it up to like a 3 or something. And that makes sense because my 6-person tent sure as hell would not fit 6 people. You know, it might fit 4, like family, you know?
And of course, it depends on what you're doing and how important weight is to you. I mean, if weight isn't an issue, you know, an extra person or 2 is going to be a pound or 2 in a modern tent, and it hardly matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, for
Whereas
sure.
with my old ass Columbia, that's a heavy bloody tent. That's like, you know, you take it, you put it down, and it sort of boom. You know, it's not a modern tent in any sense. It's hard to put together. It's heavy. It takes up a lot of room in the car because it doesn't pack small.
A lot of good things have happened in tent technology. Occasionally, I think that if I start making YouTube videos, it's going to be about sort of the history of modern tents. And
yeah, I would watch that.
What has changed over the last 20 or 30 years? Okay, well, I'm thinking about it.
I'd be your first sub, and I would hit the little bell.
Very nice.
So that every time you put up a video, no, in theory, every time you put up a video, I would know about it. But in reality, every time you put up a video, YouTube would decide whether or not that the people who click the little bell are actually going to get notices. You know. Yeah. Dale says, "Oh, I think I get it. Is Tenenbaum the same as Tenenbaum?"
And I responded, "Bingo."
Oh yeah, okay. I was wondering who you were bingoing to because Tyler said something between that. But yeah, okay. Yeah. Grace obviously agrees. And now Tyler's getting serious. He takes it back. We only kick them off if they're nice to their CBKs. Because as many of you know, one cannot, under any circumstances, baton with a Canadian belt knife by Cold Steel. Don't do it. You will get endlessly trolled. And then you will end up sad and alone like me. Like me. I'm going to do a series of videos. I'm going to borrow CBKs off of everyone I know, and I'm just going to do a series of videos of batoning with each of them. Like 4 freaking videos of batoning with Canadian belt knives. You know, this one's a DH Russell. This one's a, I don't know, Cold Steel. This one's a Base Camp X, although getting one of those is impossible. And just like spend 10 minutes. Tuck, tuck. Another log. Tuck, tuck. Another log. Still sharp.
Just for that one guy. Just for that one guy.
Oh, this is so unfair because most of the people on here right now, because this is so long ago that most people don't know this. So I'll just explain it. I bought a Cold Steel Canadian belt knife as a way of seeing if I liked the ergonomics of that design. Because I'm very into stuff that is kind of old school Canadiana. As I'm sure the Americans on here would understand, because many of you guys are into old school Americana, and the Canadian belt knife is iconic. It's not as iconic as like in the hunting community, the 303 British. Like pretty much every hunter in Canada of a certain age had an old Lee Enfield in 303 Brit. The Canadian belt knife is not quite that. Oh, I just talked about guns. Let's get past it. But a lot of Canadian bushcrafters have one of these things. Usually the Groman. But before spending like $100 plus on a knife, I wanted to see if that shape would really work because it's got such a weird look to it. So I bought the cold steel one, and I don't buy a piece of gear without doing. I try not to buy a piece of gear without doing like a quick first impressions video and then coming back with a full on review. And I put my knives through the same battery of tests, provided they're not like, folders. I put them all through the same battery of tests, which includes batoning. I'm not a massive knife batoner, but there are people out there who do, and it's a very good way to test a knife. I'm just going to Austin.
Hey, everyone.
I'll just finish up, and then we'll hopefully get a couple of good stories from Austin here. Man, wait, I like that cup. Show me that. Hell yes. I love it.
Thanks.
So I did this batoning of a small stick with the Canadian belt knife by Cold Steel. And here's the thing, that is not a full tang knife. Okay, that's a rat tail. Okay, this is what is it, a $14 knife? I think Canadian. So I put up the video, whatever. People liked it because I'm magic. And then like weeks later, I get this troll. Boom, you can't baton with that. You're going to break it. I'm like, yes, I know, but it's part of the battery of normal tests I do with knives. And if I broke it, that would actually be part of the test. And he just boom, boom. And he's getting ruder and ruder. Because at first I thought he was being constructively critical. It's just getting worse and worse. And so I think I reached out to Tyler or Outdoor Dauber, or maybe both of them, and saying, man, or Simone saying, man, this guy's really taking me down. And I think Simone dropped a reply that was of quasi polite and quasi
shut up
forceful. And then suddenly the whole thing was gone. So I'm guessing that Mr. Troll had had deleted his first comment, because if you delete the first comment in a thread, the whole thing is gone. So now I kind of wish I'd gotten screenshots of it, to just for posterity's sake, because it's sort of turned into this thing with people who've been watching my channel for a long time. You can't baton with a CBK. Yes, you can. Anyways, so that's why Tyler is showing that he's a fairly old school sub and a hilarious guy. Austin, you got some fun stories for us?
Yeah, well, I was listening to camping stories and learning the quality of gear the hard way. And I have, when I was in college, I attended what's kind of known for being a really outdoorsy, one of the major degree programs is outdoor education, forestry, located in very rural Wisconsin. So it's kind of a moniker of the school. And one of the cool parts of the college is in what they call outdoor orientation. So we take all the freshman first year students out on like a 5-day in the woods, in the bush, kind of like learn about the college.
Yep.
And so I had applied to be a student leader on this trip. And a part of our training was taking like 3 days and training ourselves before we were supposed to be responsible for new students.
Yeah.
And it rained, like it was supposed to rain like all hell this weekend. And we had a kind of a borrower's, I don't know, what would you call it? Like a loaner program.
Okay.
Of outdoor gear that a lot of the students took their camping gear for the training from. And I was like, I'm bringing my tent. I'm not going to sleep in a loaner tent. And it was kind of expected that you were going to use the gear that the college was providing, because that's what they were going to be sending students on the trip with.
Yeah.
And so my friend Alec and I have this 2-man tent, and it's from the American company called Tarp Tent, if you've ever heard of them.
Never.
And they make a really great tent that's got, like, they call the bottom a bathtub. It comes up about 3 inches, and you don't even need a ground cover.
They make lovely, lovely tents.
Yeah, it's been really good tent. Well, we set up on this hillside, and this sloping hill, and I was just like, God, I hope this tent holds up overnight.
Yeah, I've seen these before. I hadn't made the connection to the name, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Cool design.
Yeah. And we woke up and all of our gear was dry, and all these other students were student leaders were just like soaking, sleeping bags were soaking.
I mean, this is the first place where a cheap tent is going to tend to do badly.
Yeah.
Is in inclement weather.
Yeah.
You know, both in terms of design and materials, the cheapies really don't do well once it's raining.
Yeah.
A significant amount.
And I shouldn't necessarily discard the what do they call it? It's like the deposit or the loaner tents as cheap. I think they were MSRs, but when other people don't take care of gear like it's their own,
Absolutely.
then
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a huge
absolutely.
That's a factor. I mean, you have to know how to pitch it, and if you don't keep the waterproofing up, it doesn't really work that well.
Absolutely.
So not to brag about my nice tent, but it was definitely just a time that like sticks out in my mind as like nights that could have gone south, or that we were glad that we had what we did.
Yeah.
And
you know, it's funny because when I was in the Royal Canadian Air Cadets, and whenever we hit the bush with like Canadian Forces gear out of the depot at Long Point.
That's what I'm thinking of, like the depot. Yeah.
It's like, man, we would stick up these Canadian Forces tents. So if it was winter, we'd be using the Arctic tents. In the summer, they're kind of like hot tents in that there's no floor.
Sure.
You know,
like a pup tent.
Yeah, sort of like that. Except they were like 4-man tents kind of thing, and there were other ones with a floor. I mean, I'm going back a long time, right? This is when I was like 16 to 18 or 15 to 18 or something.
2005.
Not for me. But like the smell and like the Canadian Forces sleeping bags that, you know, all kinds of people have slept in, and because it's not yours, they're not really taken care of in the way that they deserve, kind of thing. And it was just like, oh wow, this sleeping bag reeks. This tent stinks, you know?
Where they like sprayed like the bowling alley like antiseptic spray inside of everything.
There was like an antiseptic thing, but there was a lot of sort of moldy smelling, you know?
Oh, sure.
Like a tent gets wet and then it gets rolled and then it gets thrown into a bag, and then someone like Tenenbaum is like, you can't do that. You know?
Well, the surest way to kill a tent is to put it away wet and just you will discover how amazingly mildew can grow on a variety of fabrics.
Yep. Well, the thing is, people think this is synthetic. It's not going to get mold. What? You know? Like, people make all these assumptions, eh?
And one of and another story I have with the same tent that was the same tent, but the total opposite night. I was on a road trip and I stopped at a campground, and the tent camping was all gravel.
Oh, crap.
And I didn't have the stakes necessary to stake out a tent in gravel. And man, I was looking at my phone and I kept getting like severe thunderstorm, like severe storm, you know, get inside warnings on my phone. And I woke up to one of the corners of the tent had fallen in, because it's a single pole tent.
Mm-hmm.
The rainbow, I guess. Yeah.
I have the double rainbow. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I woke up at like 2:30 in the morning to pouring down rain, and the corner of this tent had fallen in,
Oh no.
and it was one of those. Yeah, it's the same story, I guess, but or different story, same tent. So you can have all kinds of nights with even with really good gear, but
if it's not set up proper.
yep.
You said you have the double rainbow?
Yeah, yep. That was a purchase I made when I was a young airman with way too much money and no commitments. So it's something I'm glad to have bought years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, there's it's funny how you look at some of the more expensive stuff you got back before there was, as you were saying, commitments, and you think, man, do I want that life back? And generally it's no. Generally it's no. You don't want that life back. But you want to have control over that much of your money again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it all just sort of fell through my fingers into gear and trips and things. Are any of you fishermen?
No. Because I have so many weird fish allergies, I don't fish at all.
Sure.
My daughter was supposed to be starting fishing this year. We bought her a kit for Christmas, and she was going to go because her grandfather is an avid fisherman and a hunter. Her whatever, the boyfriend of the life partner of my wife's mother.
Sure.
And so the whole plan was that this year, because she's been asking to try out fishing for a couple of years. So the plan was, man, this year, as much fishing as she wants, he's going to take her, and then nobody's going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that's kind of one thing I've been learning this year that I never needed to spend a lot of money on was fishing gear.
Mm-hmm.
At least to go out and have fun.
Yeah, I get that.
But it's
well, the funny thing is, I don't mean funny, haha. I mean, the weird thing is, we don't need to spend a lot of money on gear to go out there and have fun, right? I don't need a knife that costs this much, right? I can go out there with a Mora, provided there's another one in my bag as backup, and it's a perfectly serviceable bush knife.
Yeah, so true.
I want to spend the money on the gear that gets me gear that will last me forever, because that's where spending becomes more important, right? I don't want to replace my sleeping bag every couple of years because I bought something that's going to, come apart over the next couple of years. I don't want to be buying a new Mora every few years because I'm batoning with it. I want to spend as much as I can afford on my gear so that I don't have to replace it. I like having things that I've had for 10 years and I know exactly how it's, it's as comfortable as a pair of slippers kind of thing. I like that with my bass guitars. I like that with my axes. I like that with my knives. I like to there's a familiarity there that you don't get when you're replacing your gear every couple of years.
You know how it's going to... sorry. Go ahead.
It's a better time than ever for that now. I mean, there was a time where the access to opinions you had were 3 outdoor magazines.
Yeah,
true.
And now it's the whole internet. I mean, you've got 8,000 reviews. So it's a great time to be more discerning, I guess, in what you choose to spend your money on.
Yeah.
So here's a question for everyone. What's the one piece of gear that you spent a lot of money on thinking you were going to use a lot and you bought for the quality that you don't necessarily regret buying, but you didn't need to spend the money on because you don't use it like even 25% of what you thought? Here's mine. I'm unpacking and having moved into my new house. And this is my
small forest axe.
And I rarely use this.
Really? I'm looking for a second one. Here's the thing. I have 2 Wetterling's Scandinavian forest axes. And when I got the second one, there's a whole weird story about how I ended up with 2 of them.
I've seen that video years ago.
Okay. I decided that Camille was going to get the second one, so I bopped her initials into the bottom. And then Simon has 2 small forest axes. And I said, well, why don't we just trade? But I had already sort of shown Camille the axe that she was going to have one day. So I kind of had to say no. But I deeply regret not having made that swap, because I think that a small forest axe will be better for her until she's a lot older than the Scandinavian forest axe will be. Like it's really the right length for teaching her and stuff. But like the price of the Gransfurs up here, they're practically priced into custom axe territory at this point. So I'm not going to be buying a second one just so I can pass it to her. You know? And so I feel like I'm stuck now because Camille has seen the Wetterlings and like her initials are on the bottom. And so swapping it out without telling her isn't going to work. And swapping it out while telling her why is just going to be like, no, Daddy, I can do this. Because she's that type of girl.
Sure.
But I deeply wish I had bought a second small forest axe when it wasn't that expensive yet. There's a lot of people saying things in the side chat. Before we go any further, I just want to take a look. There's a bunch of people who fish outdoor dauber. Yeah, I knew outdoor dauber fished. Dale Bruce fishes. Fishing is cheap, does not cost a lot, Dale says. Tyler says that something is not bushcrafty but a tool. Oh, he bought a timber framing drill. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I would buy that too. Alain says knives. Alain has so many knives.
Yeah, I have going through and unpacking all of this stuff into my new house is kind of, it's nice to see all this stuff, and then I'm just like, God, I have so much money wrapped up in toys.
Yeah, and I do too. I really pass on a lot of my toys if they're not getting used. I keep coming back to bass guitars because that's where like the biggest example of this is. I used to have like 4, and I'm down to like the 2 that I use.
Sure.
You know, everything else I've passed on for 2 reasons. It's easy to end up with like 15 grand tied up in bass guitars, like without even trying if you're not careful. And so off-gassing some of that can get you a bit of that money back. But more importantly, I'm not a big collector. I don't want stuff sitting in a box or in terms of a bass guitar sitting in the corner being neglected when somebody out there
can appreciate
it and get it used.
Yeah,
and
it's like it's the difference between a connoisseur and a collector.
Yeah. And so I pass stuff on. You know, I sell stuff or I do like giveaways fairly often because I don't want to be the guy with 100 knives that never get used. You know, what I like about Alain is he's got 100 knives, but every time he comes to the bush with us, he's got something different. You know, so obviously there's a little bit of cycling happening there at least.
And this is why
I think he's used all his knives at least once.
Yeah. Tenenbaum, what were you saying?
And this is why I need to sell or give away more of my tents because.
But here's what I think.
I have an addiction.
Here's what I think you should do, Tenenbaum. And if I lived in the same country as you, I'd be like, let's do this, man. I think that if you're going to start off-gassing your tents, what you should do is do an episode about each one. You know, here are the features. You know, if you're looking for a tent and you can find one of these, it's a great buy kind of thing. Because then suddenly it's not just an addiction and a collection for nothing. You're using them to make episodes, right? You're doing, here is what this tent brings to the table. If you're looking for a 2-man tent, you know, here's why you want to buy vintage. Here's why you don't want to buy vintage. You're going to know this. You've got the knowledge, you know? That's a niche that you would probably blow way past me in subs like that.
I was going to say, I don't see anyone else doing it right now. I see people doing an individual review of something that they have, and it's usually 1 or 2. I see retailers trying to hawk their tents to people, but I haven't seen anybody look at them from sort of a more objective point of view. So,
yeah, and you wouldn't use these videos as a way to sell the tent, right? You're doing you're doing a this is what this tent is. This is maybe the history behind it, if a bit. Here's why you want to buy it vintage instead of brand new. And well, if you got the money, here's why you would want to do the brand new. Because I haven't seen anyone really doing that either, I think it would be terrific. You just give the channel name something about tents, vintage tent stuff channel. I don't know. I mean, I'm riffing here, right?
Past tense.
Oh.
I better register that right now.
You register that right to the hell now. Foxit says that his biggest regret in purchasing was a frame pack back in like 97. Only used the thing maybe 3 times, and it was just as comfort. Hey, you know what? I know what mine is. I bought an ILBE. That's
the marine bag.
Yeah. And it's heavy, which I don't really mind. The Canadian Forces pack is also very heavy. But mine is broken in several spots. Like, so that literally it came broken in several spots. Obviously I got it used. And so it's literally just collecting dust in the garage. Cause I don't love the pack enough to spend big money fixing it. I think it's a good pack, but I think what I should do is revisit it and do an episode where I'm fixing all the issues with it. But like I have to source.
How broken is it?
Well, I definitely have to source a new waist belt thing for it. Thing is, it's easy to replace if you can get one.
What's wrong with the belt?
I don't even remember. I stuck this thing in the garage 4 years ago, and before that I hadn't touched it. And what I was using it like was as that was grammatically terrible. Sorry, guys. The way I was using it was as like a duffel bag, right? When I was going hunting, I would throw stuff in and throw it in the back of the truck.
Yeah, because it's huge. It's
big. You can put all kinds of crap in there. But I don't remember. I should dig it out again and see what's broken. I did a video on it. I think I called it my buyer's remorse video about it. And it got many, many views, but it came across a lot more negatively than I wanted it to. No. What I wanted to say was buyer beware. Always take a close look before you throw your money down. But it just came off as I was whining about the pack and about the guy who sold it to me. So I hid the video.
But I think there's always people that or there's always products where people that come looking for videos are coming looking for videos to confirm the purchase that they just made.
Which is exactly the issue I ran into, yep.
And I would say the ILBE bag falls well within that. Is everyone bought one on eBay and now wants to make sure that everyone on YouTube is saying buy it because they just bought one. Yep.
Yeah. But I don't want to get bogged down with it. It was a lot of money, but it wasn't enough of money. It wasn't enough money that here I am 10 years later and still hurting for the lack of the money. Right.
Sure.
I when I'm looking at something that might have been a mistake or might have been a huge mistake, it's at the end of the year, am I still going to miss the money that I spent? Because there's a dollar value, right? Above which it's like, oh, wow, I'm going to be feeling that forever kind of thing. And it didn't really tip the scales that way, but
yeah, I think our elastic our elastic demand, if you like use economics term, is like a lot of people. I think a lot of people can spend a lot more money than they realize on things before they end up in buyer's remorse department. I know I've spent, like, for example, the small forest axe. It was not at all the most that I've ever spent on something, and I don't have buyer's remorse, but it's just something that I don't use as much as I'd like.
Yeah. Yeah. The reason why the Grand Spurs these days are kind of eye-wateringly expensive is because of what axes tend to cost,
Sure.
right? Like my Swedish carving axe that I
You
just
did a
did.
review on that
Yeah.
recently.
When I bought that axe, it was just tipping over $200 Canadian. I think it was 215.
You
And
couldn't touch one for that, no.
No way. No way. In fact,
What is that, about 145, 160 US?
Ish. That sort of depends on the year,
Sure.
but it was about that. So I will go to the same place where I bought mine.
God, I remember a couple years ago when I was looking at them, they were like, Grants First had like taken them out of the catalog for the year, and they were pushing like $400.
Wow. Okay, that's heavy because right now it's $270 at Lee Valley Canadian dollars.
No, you know what I'm thinking of is the Grants First Brooks ads.
Oh yeah, a whole different story. Yeah, I'm never gonna be able to get my hands on one of those. I wanted one, but the price kept going up, and ads are really expensive no matter how you slice it. It seems. I don't really know why, unless it's because the market is only this big. But yeah, the ads are expensive as hell. Yeah.
I bought a blade and made a handle for one. That was probably one of the coolest woodworking projects I've ever tackled.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I have in the back there an old vintage ads that needs to be cleaned up and stuff. I contacted a handle maker for a couple of projects of mine and a double bit that Simon has, but he forgot about me, I think. And I kind of don't want to ping him right now because money isn't the same when you're not playing music. Like all I've got is my day job money coming in. So when things switch up a bit, I'm gonna ping him and say, "Yo, I need those handles because I want to do some projects." But I don't even have time to be handling anything right now, so it's not really killing me.
Yeah, well, you have a 1-year-old right now, so.
Well, she's 19 months now. She's a little more than that, but she does take up a lot of freaking time. Let me tell you.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of time. So we're at 23:15. So maybe we'll let everyone go to bed. I do want to say thanks to you four for coming on, and thanks to Tyler also for coming on to share some outdoorsy stories and get the conversation going. I'd like to thank everyone who hung out in the side chat, either for the whole thing or for part of the whole thing. As I like to say, but I forgot to say at the beginning of tonight because I kicked myself offline, which messed with my mojo. If you're watching this time shifted to tomorrow or next week or something, thank you for spending your time watching this after the fact. That still counts to me, and I appreciate it greatly. Feel free to leave some comments down below. And so to everyone, see you next week. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and stay sane.
Take it easy.
Thank you, guys. Bye.